talk to myself. Sometimes I say. fucking plotter. Kick them grooves,
I'm in PSE&G area here, and we have a requirement that's known as the fifth jaw. And so PSE&G has required this fifth jaw for quite some time, long before I even had my license. And we would have to put in the spec meter, which is normal for any utility company. But for PSE&G, they needed us to monitor the neutral current leaving the source and returning to the source. And that's what this fifth jaw is right here. As you can see, there's a lug to connect the wire, the grounded neutral here that goes back to our system neutral lug in the back there. And that's really all it is. Obviously, the grounded neutral here is grounded or bonded to the enclosure here. Alrighty. And this fifth jaw starts here when you plug the meter in. A lot of new smart meters require the neutral or the fifth jaw, including now JCP&L here in New Jersey. If you found this information helpful, do me a favor, hit the like button, and if you want to see more, subscribe. Thank you. This is my primary grounding electroconductor. This is number 2 aluminum that I'm terminating. All of my grounding electroconductors and my system neutrals get bonded here at the main disconnect. That's my grounding electroconductor that goes to my 2 copper ground rods in the ground, and this also gets terminated here at the main disconnect. The main disconnect is where all of your grounding and bonding takes place. Okay, so here we are. This looks, I think this was a 16 or a 20 circuit 100 amp main breaker panel. I'm going to assume that this was the second electrical service done at this house, at this property. There's no knob and tube at this house, so that tells me that this house was built after 1930, but I'm imagining that this house was built in the 1940s. And the original electrical panel most likely had Edison-based fuses. That was probably upgraded around 1970 or 1980, somewhere in that time. That's what this panel looks like to me, in my opinion. And so this will be the third reincarnation of electrical service at this house in Westfield. As you can see, this panel was full. There was 1 space left, and we were adding at least 5 circuits here. 2 of them were going to be 240 volt circuit, which takes up 4 spaces, and another single pole 20 amp circuit, which takes up 1 space. And then, of course, we have to put in the we have to put in the surge protection, which takes up another 2 spaces. So 7 new spaces that we use in a new panel for the 200 amp service, 40 circuit, the 40 space 80 circuit panel we're going to be putting in. So delicately I remove all of the grounds, all of the hot conductors. Then of course we want to make sure that we label all of our double pole circuit breakers somehow, so that when we put the cables back into the new panel, we know that they're connected to 240 volt double pole circuit breaker. So that's also important. I like to use vinyl tape to wrap both the conductors that go to the breaker, and so I know which ones get attached to the double pole circuit breakers. So we got a combination here of non-metallic sheet cable, the Romex that you see, and of course at the top all the original armored BX cable. I'm also going to be adjusting the length of the BX cable, so I'll have to use my BX cutters to strip it back. This was the old grounding electrode conductor that was sleeved through this rigid metallic conduit that goes from here all the way back to the water main, which is on the other side of the basement. I've never seen protection quite like that before. It's a good thing, I guess, but totally not necessary by today's standards, so to speak. What we want to do is we don't want to put the conductor in a place where it's subject to physical damage, and the code does address this. So as you can see, this mounting board right here, I tugged on it a bunch of times and it did not move. It did not budge at all. So I decided to leave it in place and to add my 2x4, not my 2x4, my 3/4 inch plywood mounting board, and mount it directly to this old board that's here. I'm taking off all of the old connectors so that we can properly trim back the sheathing or the armored cable sheathing, so that all these conductors can come right into the top of the panel in a neat workmanlike manner. The NEC actually does address neat workmanlike manner in article or section 110 TAC 12, the execution of work. and it says the work must be done in a neat, workmanlike manner. What the NEC fails to do is describe what neat and workmanlike manner is. So that's up to the discretion of the authority having jurisdiction. But here in New Jersey, we don't have an authority having jurisdiction. We just have construction officials and electrical inspectors. New Jersey has adopted the Uniform Construction Code, which then adopts the National Electric Code. So the Uniform Construction Code trumps the National Electric Code, and then we decide what we want to abide by in the National Electric Code through a committee that decides on which codes serve New Jersey the best. All right, so here I'm mounting the panel, and as you can see before, I did a pilot hole, but now I've got my PVC, and I'm going to mount it to the mounting board here, and that end of the 90-degree sweep is going to go into the back of the LB, which is on the outside. This way, all the wiring comes right into the top, or not all of the wiring, but the service entrance conductors comes through that PVC through the 90-degree sweep that I have there. If you like this video, do me a favor, hit the like button. Thank you very, very much. Just passed 27,000 subscribers recently. I'm very excited by that. It's been slow the last couple of months, and obviously doing all this work takes a lot of time. Right now, I'm still instructing my first-year apprentices at the NJ-IEC Education and Training Center in Somerset, New Jersey. If you're interested in becoming an electrician and you want to go to an apprenticeship school, I have links that will show you the way to get registered to become an apprentice in our school, and they're in the description below this video. Here I'm attaching a ground bar for all my equipment grounding connectors. Obviously, this panel is downstream from the main disconnect, which sits outside, which tells us that we need to separate or isolate our grounded neutrals, which are current carrying conductors, from our equipment grounding conductors, which are current carrying conductors for ground fault only. So they're not normally carrying current, and that's why we need to isolate the grounds from the neutrals here at this panel. So there are my BX strippers, and BX is just a term that was used many, many years ago when the Bronx Cable Company would ship their product to the job site. They'd have a stamp on a wooden crate that said BX Cable Company. So the name BX came from that experience. The cable would come in a wooden crate, like I said, and people just started calling it BX cable. But if you look in the National Electrical for BX cable, you will not find it. The actual name of this cable, the way the NEC defines it, is known as armored cable, which is AC, and I believe that's Article 320 in the National Electric Code. So from here on out, for a while, for a few hours here down in the basement, I'm just going to be trimming back the home runs here coming into the panel and then getting them onto connectors and into the enclosure. When it comes to the armored cable, the connector, it must be tight around that cable, and the lock nut must be very secure around the enclosure so that we get a nice proper bond, because the outer sheeting of the armored cable, BX cable, is the equipment grounding conductor. This job came out really, really well, I thought. I was there for a long day, and it was like maybe two times that this job was actually postponed. And I was originally supposed to do this job a week before I did it here, and it was going to be about 12 degrees that day, but it got postponed. On the day that I actually did this work, the temperature went up to 56 degrees. So I was very fortunate and lucky to be doing the service that day. As you can see, I'm in my t-shirt. Even though I'm inside the basement, I was working like this outside as well. If you like this video, do me a favor, hit the like button. Thanks, guys. Where I put the circuit breakers in the panel really does not matter, but one thing I do pay attention to is whenever I do these service upgrades, there's always a circuit or two that is too short that'll have to be extended. And so I try to use the home runs or the hot conductors here that are the shortest on the first circuit breakers up at the top. Least amount of wire nuts you can actually put inside the panel, the better. I think it looks neater. Of course, it's permitted to use wire nuts or wire connectors inside of a panel, as long as you don't take up more than 40% of that cross-sectional space, which would be a lot of wires inside the panel. Never come close to that as far as violating that code section. But I will use the shorter home run conductors and attach them to the breakers up at the top of the panel. So it's less work that way, and it gets easier and it gets done faster. Now mind you, while you're doing this, the customer has no electrical power. So sometimes, and I think in this case they were home during the day, and so it's not easy. It wasn't cold, so that was a good thing. So it wasn't a matter of heat or being too hot in the summertime, but rather not having electricity means you don't want to open up the refrigerator as often as you might want to. You wouldn't be able to turn on the light in a dark space. Obviously, you can't charge your phone. You can't watch TV. There's a lot of stuff, obviously, that we use electricity for that while I'm doing this work, you can't use it. So try to get this done as quickly as possible. That's why I started coming the day before to do the grounding electrode system, so there's less downtime while I'm doing the upgrade. All right, so here, this is the last part of the outside that I need to do other than cut in at the end of the day, is I'm installing my 4/0 aluminum service entrance conductors between the main breaker here and the panel downstairs, which are actually not service entrance conductors, they are feeders. It's a 4-wire. So we have two 120 volt legs, we have a neutral between them, and then of course our equipment grounding conductor, which gets derived here at the main disconnect. That equipment grounding conductor is the green cable that's been re-identified. And here what I'm doing is I'm putting on this terminal block, because number 2 aluminum is not going to fit in those terminals that come with the ground bar that comes with the enclosure here. So I need to attach this lug to the ground bar, as you see there. And that's where the equipment grounding conductor is derived from. Now, truth be told, this took a lot longer than I thought it would. Folding over the 4/0 aluminum through the LB and down into the panel down below. You've seen me using it before, and I use that 2x4 right there to actually help the conductors go into the panel. As you can see there, I'll use it to persuade the conductors into the LB. We don't want to damage the insulation, which is why I'm using that block of wood. And finally I get them inside, and so now I'm going to terminate them to the terminals here. This is what we call a feed through panel. Yeah, just thinking back to that day, it took me a lot longer than I thought. That's okay, because sometimes that happens, and you don't want to take any shortcuts. You just want to do this job right so you don't get any callbacks or have any problems at all. So here I'm putting in the duct seal between the outside and the inside. That's the leading cause for rust and condensation inside an electrical panel, is that cold air meeting the warm air on the inside, forming condensation, and it just goes inside your panel and just wreaks havoc. So the code actually requires that we plug up that raceway between the outside and the inside, just to prevent the condensation from forming. All right, so we are coming to the end of the video here. Obviously, I'm up on my extension ladder here, and I'm reconnecting to the utility. I use butt splices here to connect back to the utility. I'm told by some people that it's not rated for they're not rated for outdoor use, and other people say, nah, you're fine. PSE&G drops off these connectors to me sometimes. I don't know how they use them because they're not large enough for 4/0 aluminum. They're good for number 2, but not for number 4/0 aluminum. So usually when they give them to me, I toss them, and I use the butt splices. And what I do is I usually connect the grounded leg first, and then both of the hots. And what I do is we tighten them down with the set screw, and then I go over them with rubber tape twice, and then come back with vinyl tape. It's really up to PSE&G if they want to come back here and resplice my connection. That's totally up to them. But once I get down off the ladder from splicing in, from cutting back in, we're going to take my voltage testers. I should have 240 volts between L1 and L2, and 120 volts between those to each of the legs to neutral. Once I know I have that, I've already checked for faults, but I'm going to check it again here. Just make sure I got no short circuits or any continuity between any of my lugs. And then I'm going to install the meter. And once we install the meter, I'll turn on that main breaker inside the enclosure, and then I'll go downstairs to the panel and turn on each of the individual circuit breakers, which will restore power back to the house. If you like this video, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching if you made it all the way through to this part of the video at the end. And as always, to my subscribers, thank you for coming back and being so involved on the page. And we'll see you on the next one. All right, here's the water. We did the main a couple of weeks ago. This job got postponed a few times. Number 2 aluminum. And of course the ground rods, they were outside. Saw the GEC coming into the main disconnect outside. I'm going to turn off the camera now, put this cover on, and put in a pull chain light. Hi, this is Ron from Classic Electric. YouTube thinks that you'll like these 2 videos on the screen, so go ahead and check them out. Don't forget to leave a comment, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.